It's been about 2 years since the last Fire Emblem release, and I've been craving a good classic turn-based RPG for a while now. And luckily, I stumbled across Dark Deity, which is developed by the indie studio Sword and Axe. I did finish both games, but for this particular video, I want to focus on Dark Deity 2. But to quickly summarize my experience with the first game, it's rough. Which isn't really a surprise. It was Sword and Axe's first project, and with indie devs, those first attempts usually come with a lot of rough edges. Things I liked: they ditched the standard Fire Emblem triangle in favor of weapon advantages versus armor types. It took some time getting used to, especially with how ingrained the Fire Emblem formula is in me, but I came to appreciate the change. I also really liked the different weapon styles and accessories you could equip to adjust how your units played, but the UI, absolutely painful. Navigating it was dreadful and clunky, and that killed a lot of my momentum. But that brings me to Dark Deity 2, which really did fix a lot of those issues and pain points from the first. To sum it up, I enjoyed the story up to a certain point, though something specific really bothered me later on. And gameplay wise, this was a very competent game. The system for building your units is fantastic. You can shape them into almost anything you want. Whether or not that build actually works is another story.
Cover for me.
So let's dive into the story first, which left me with a lot of conflicting feelings. I'll try to avoid major spoilers, but I do need to touch on some character arcs to explain why the writing disappointed me. So if you're sensitive about that, skip ahead to the next section. So the game takes place about 25 years after the end of the first one. This time you're following the children of Irving, the original protagonist. You'll follow them across a continent, fighting to resist the invasion of a massive empire. This is a decent story setting. Young heroes band together to save the world from a crazy emperor controlled by a shadow force. It's not groundbreaking, but it's classic RPG storytelling, and I'm fine with that. I actually enjoyed the world building. The nations all have their own histories and goals. The political conflicts feel grounded. The lore is deep enough that you can buy into the stakes of the world. And a lot of the characters, at least at first, are pretty well written with enough personality to keep you interested. But then we get to the protagonist, Gwyn. She's Irving's daughter, the next in line to lead the Order of Eternals, the group we're part of. Early on, she's confident, strong, very capable, and you can also see hints of insecurity from living up to your father's high expectations, but that's natural. At first, I thought this was great. A strong leader with imperfections, perfect protagonist material. It's good writing to show some flaws because it makes characters that much more relatable. But as the story progressed, things took a turn for the worst. The writers kept piling challenges onto Gwyn, and instead of rising up to meet them, she kind of just collapses.
Oh, no, we're too late.
Gwyn, focus!
Right. Everyone, we have to find the Grand Master. He's in danger. I won't let her.
Gwyn!
No, Bearden. God damn it, I know.
She breaks down, losing all confidence in herself, and worse, she just does it openly in front of her army. There's a point where she literally cries in front of everyone, asking why anyone still trusts her.
I don't want to be this person anymore. I don't want to be Commander Gwyn. I just want my life back.
And listen,
Gwyn.
I get it. She's gone through some traumatic shit, and she's under incredible pressure. She's young, inexperienced, but she's the main character. And the whole point of putting a hero in these impossible situations is to show us how they persevere through them. Gwyn doesn't. She spirals. And if my commander started publicly crying about how unfit they are to lead, sorry, but I'm not following you anymore. Literally anyone else would be better at this point. That shift in her arc ruined the story for me. What started as a promising character turned into someone I actively didn't want to root for. And it's even worse for Irving, her dad. In the first game, Irving was a principled hero. He had flaws, but he always held on to his morals. In Dark Deity 2, they stripped that away. He's really angry, he's really irrational, very bloodthirsty, almost unrecognizable.
It hardly takes more than a look to see what he's done to you. Putting you down, it will be a mercy.
It's the exact same thing Hollywood did to Luke Skywalker in the recent Star Wars films. They took a beloved hero and turned him into a joke. And honestly, that really hurt my overall enjoyment of the story. Alright, but enough of that. Let's talk about gameplay, which is where Dark Deity 2 really shines. It's heavily inspired by classic Fire Emblem, grid-based, turn-based strategy RPG combat, and it nails that style. Stage progression is linear, you don't have endless grinding maps. There is a training stage, but it does cost maybe 1,000 gold if I remember right, so you're always juggling resources. Do you spend gold to train your army or save it for weapons and upgrades? I like that balance. It forces you to make hard choices and plan ahead. It's very reminiscent of older Fire Emblem titles where you couldn't just grind your way out of a bad situation. Stages themselves are designed with mini objectives and optional chests scattered around. Add in the optional turn limit, which I highly recommend, and suddenly every stage feels like a puzzle. Do you split your team to grab loot in time? Do you rush objectives, or do you play it safe and risk missing out on rewards? The obvious answer is just to do it all. This had me restarting stages more times than I care to admit, but honestly, that's when I know a strategy RPG is doing its job. Now, the death mechanic. In Fire Emblem, permadeath adds real tension. Every mistake can cost you a character forever. In Dark Deity 2, they don't have a permadeath system. Instead, if a unit goes down, they're removed from that battle and return in the next with a temporary debuff that lasts one stage. I didn't like this. Yes, it keeps the roster intact and some people will appreciate not losing their favorite characters, but for me, it kind of kills the urgency, meaning mistakes don't feel as heavy. I still think they should add a permadeath mechanic down the line, or at least in their next installment if they are planning on doing a third sequel. Now, let's talk about what the developers did very well. Unit customization. Like in Fire Emblem, you can promote units across 2 stages, and even then, they're not locked in until you get to the furthest stage. So you can still switch your unit around if you didn't like the ability and class that they're in. Each job has unique abilities and weapon proficiency. Weapons themselves can be upgraded along specific paths, letting you customize how they function. On top of that, you can equip up to 2 rings per character, and rings don't just tweak stats. Some can completely change how a unit performs. A ring might boost crit or dodge, turning a mediocre fighter into a dodge tank. Another might amplify skills, letting your mage become a glass cannon nuke. The system is deep, and you can create some very wild builds. You want a high dodging assassin who crits? There's a class, weapon, upgrade path, and a ring setup for that. Want a mage who blows up a whole squad of enemies with just one skill? That's possible too. The flexibility is very impressive.
Be gone!
The downside is balance. Some classes and builds just perform significantly better than others, which do limit your options. For example, many adept jobs are very underwhelming, so the freedom to build whatever you want is a bit of an illusion. Still, even with the imbalance, I did have fun experimenting and finding those builds that were broken, even if not all of them were viable. So that's Dark Deity 2. It's an indie love letter to Fire Emblem with a lot of charm and ambition. The story has a lot going for it, strong world building, interesting lore, and a compelling setup. But the character writing for the main character, Gwyn and Irving, really dragged it down for me. That coupled with the voice acting, which the voice acting is very good, but the amount of crying you hear in the game is kind of insane. The gameplay though is where the game shines. Strategic maps, resource management, unit customization, and deep build options give you a lot of room to play the way you want. Even if balance issues and lack of permadeath does hold it back a little bit in my opinion, it's still a strong entry in the strategy RPG space. Overall, I'd say Dark Deity 2 is absolutely worth your time. While on the topic of indie games, a developer from Larian mentioned recently that AAA studios have a perverse attachment to indie games, which I go over what that means and how the cycle of indies and AAA games affect each other in a video I'll link soon, so definitely check that out. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching. My name's been Suka, and I'll see y'all next time. See ya.